there it is. Look at that. You got that all set up already. Isn't that nice? Alright, so let's talk about it. Ugh. Do I think Doom is unbalanced? The only thing I would change with Doom is he needs to have a 1 second delay of firing his primary attack after skills. The change they did before where they made him really feel bad was that they added a second delay of all skills, like after all skills. But basically all they have to do is it doesn't even have to be a second, could be a half a second. They just need to take away the insta shot after slam into uppercut. Essentially, you can chain in like a frame perfect shot there by just holding down the button. So, if they did that, they would just allow a little bit more counterplay. I mean, overall, I don't know how to do this, but essentially move him just like a smidge off of damage and then more onto displacement. But I don't know how to do that in a meaningful way. So, let's go over the experimental card. Everyone's talking about it. So, Baptiste, essentially they're making his primary fire a little bit better. So he gets about 15% reduced time between his triple shot for the trade-off of losing 1 damage. I'm not sure on the exact numbers here on how much his DPS helps overall, but I'm 99% sure they did this 1 damage just so he couldn't one clip tracer, or 1 shot tracer, essentially. So now he deals like a smidge less damage, but he has more time to shoot because he shoots between his shots faster. And then they kind of did the same thing, but the opposite for his secondary fire. So they made his secondary fire a little bit slower, but they increased his healing so like it felt more impactful. And what this did, this actually kind of goes with my change of my that giant post I put on. Basically, supports have to heal a lot. If they don't, they're useless. Because if you make them heal a little bit, then they don't feel good because it's always 6 heroes that can deal damage against 2 heroes that can heal. So for healing to always be impactful, it has to be significant. And what you need to do is you need to increase the window that you can take advantage of, or the timings of. And this kind of does that. So I believe this is still, we talked about in chat, it was like a 4% increase of healing. Which is, alright, not a big deal, but it should be a little bit more impactful. It was, from wall width is from 5 to 9. It's doubling the size of it. I'm sure if you did the volume of it or the space of it, it's more than double, but it's pretty significant. It's a big-ass widescreen now, which I'm not too against. As a Junkrat player, it was funny when people used wall because I would just throw a concussive mine through it, and you're going to hit 2 or 3 people. And then for the big kind of talk of this. Now, let me actually get the wording from the actual website. So, let me just read this to you. So they changed Baptiste in May, yada yada yada, but they're going to make some health adjustments. And this is their quote: We're also making some health adjustments to a number of heroes in increments of 25 rather than 50. Historically, we've always adjusted health and shield values in increments of 50 for ease of understanding how many hits a hero could take. Bullshit. After years of balancing, updates, and fine-tuning, we want to try to get more granular with this approach. So, why do I say that's bullshit? OG Sim had an ability where you right-clicked on everyone when they're alive. How much health did it add, folks? Does anyone remember? Was it an increment of 25? Yes, it was 25 exactly. And then she got Shield Gen. Now, Shield Generator, did it give 50 hit points? No. Did it give 100? That's ridiculous. No. it gave 75. Again, increment of 25. Now, crazy idea. Torb's armor, how much did his armor pack give? 75. So this whole thing of we've never dealt with 25 health before is complete and utter bullshit. They know exactly, they've worked with it, and it's commonplace. So that whole thing is bullshit. And as for the idea of 50 health tells you how much damage your hero can take, that couldn't be further from the truth. Overwatch really depends on two numbers, and then essentially 30% 30% of up and down with that. So the first number is 70. 70 damage. What is that? That's McCree, Torb, Ryan's Hammer. I'm trying to think what else. It's funny because I want to say it happens a lot. But with 70 damage, that's a really big cutoff because it's like 70, 140, 210. And this is why when I say when people get increased by 25 health, it's a big deal from 200. Because they can survive another shot of most breakpoints by increased by 25. Now, when you lose that, when you go down from 200 to 175, it's actually not that big of a deal. Most breakpoints are the same. And the other number besides 70 is 120. Essentially, Widow, I know it's 125, Widow, or Hanzo's 125, but Widow, Hanzo, Pharah, Junkrat, they all operate on 120s. And so it's like 30% plus that, right? So it's because Mercy and Zen give damage boost. So you got to think, all right, so it's 120 and 154, and then it's 70 and what, 94? No, 70. 91. There we go. Also, Ana heals for 70. May's Icicle is 75. Ash Body Shot. Aiming down scope is 75. Yeah, 70, 75 is a big thing, and then 120, 125-ish. And then the multiplications of 30% plus that. Those are like your big, if you just want to get a really vague idea of how to judge health pools and damage breakoffs, those are the two you really need to focus on. So with plus 25, it makes you stronger against the 70 type heroes, any type of like, I don't want to say not high damage, but like mid to high damage. But for the high damage, it doesn't affect it at all, right? Pharah, Junkrat, Hanzo, and Widow, they still do damage in like 120. So 120, 240, 225 doesn't really help you there. Obviously, with splash damage and stuff like that, it does help you a little bit, but we're just thinking damage breaks. And then when you get to 175 hit points, you look at that, and it doesn't change anything with the 70s, 75s, even the 80s. It only affects, and it doesn't affect the 120s either, right? So it doesn't really change much in these two categories, which is what we're going to get into. So Brigitte, she got 150 to 175 health, so she'll be at 225 total. I think this is good. I think it's a good spot for her. It makes her a little bit less vulnerable to snipers and headshots and all that. It just makes her a little bit tankier of a support after she's been smacked down pretty damn hard over the past year. And not that she didn't deserve it, but I think this will put her in a pretty nice place. McCree going to 225. I don't mind this because they slowed down his damage. And for those of you that don't remember what they said when they increased his damage was that his attack speed, I should say, they said McCree underperformed in terms of damage against all other DPS, well, most other DPSers. So that's why they increased his damage by like 20%, whatever it was. It was insane. So they took that back, but didn't give him more damage because that'd be a little bit broken. And now they're trying to buff him in other ways. And so now that he has 225, obviously that doesn't help him against other mid-rangers. Or I shouldn't say mid-rangers, mid to high damagers. What does it help him against? Well, low damagers. This is what really the extra 25 hit points really helps against. I guess also it does help him against mid-rangers. Sorry. Misspoke there. So it's low and mid damage that it helps him against. So against other McCrees, kind of against other Ashes, a little bit, I guess, with a Mercy boost cannot one-shot, Mercy Ash cannot one-shot 225 hit point heroes now. Because they lowered Ash's damage a little bit. So he will always live, at least with some health, against a damage boosted Ash. So he's getting some sustain, I don't even call it sustain, but some survivability against these high damage heroes. But it really, really helps him against low damage heroes. And who are that? The flankers. So Tracer, Genji. Let's just speak to those. I mean, technically it helps against Echo as well, and she's semi-flanky. But so it really solidifies him and the concept that he's meant to deal with these flankers, and he's supposed to be a little bit of a tougher mid-range specialist, if not even like a backline specialist. Not like backline as in long range, but backline as in I stick near the supports. And then the reload, I played McCree earlier today on the experimental, and I thought this was going to feel like significantly faster, but it didn't feel that much faster. I think this has to do with, all right, if he is going to be on the back lines, and he's going to be, shooting a little bit from farther away where he's weaker, well, then he's going to be reloading more. So let's just give him a little bit extra reload speed, and that should kind of offset the concept of him sitting in the back. At first, I wasn't really on board with this one, and I'm still on the fence, but it's not as crazy as I thought, so we're going to go with it. Mei got buffed a little bit. So Mei is underused overall. She was really strong for a bit, and then they kind of nerfed her, and everyone's like, oh, okay, that's... Actually, the biggest change was the fact that they allowed heroes, large heroes, to get through one gap in the wall. So what they're doing is, one, they're giving her a little bit of a cooldown buff on wall, 1 second. Not a huge deal, but cool. Just for my ADD, like 13 seconds, that's a terrible number. But 12 seconds? Oh, that's perfect. Everyone has even number abilities. That's nice. As for the Chro freeze, she now restores 15 ammo per second, and I forget how long that block is. Is it 3 seconds? Or is it 5? I'm trying to think, like, just counting in my head when I see her freeze. Either way, it gives her a little bit of ammo back, and that's really nice, because Mei does spam out a shit ton of ammo. 4 seconds, says the wiki. Perfect. I knew it was longer than 3. So she gets 60 ammo back, which isn't a ton, right? She has 200 ammo total. So she just gets back a fourth of her ammo whenever she uses that. And if she's sitting in the ice block the whole time, then most of the time in Overwatch, if you sit around for 4 seconds, it's never worth it. Like, moving around, staying mobile, seeing where the enemy's at, getting damage, getting damage off from different angles, like, figure out all that stuff. That's a lot more better, or a lot better than just sitting still and doing nothing. Mei has 100 total. I think I'm thinking of when they did all of her ammo changes. But either way, is it 120 now? 10 per icicle? Okay. I just remember they changed her ammo around a bit. I thought it was like she had 25 per icicle, 200 ammo. Oh yeah, and then they made the change down to 100, but then they reduced it to 10, so she got more secondaries off, but less primary. Yes, that's right. Okay, so she gets like 60% of her ammo back. Perfect, that's fine. She deserves something else for just sitting in that shit now. Sim gets a big... People are saying this isn't that big of a deal. This is actually a huge deal. This is actually significant. So she gets 25 more shields, which is 25 more health that she can regen without anyone else helping her. But more importantly, it puts her up to 225 health. And when I was playing today, I was getting hooked as hog, and guess what? I was living. So Sim has that little bit of hardiness that allows her to survive a little bit longer. And the entire minigame of Sim was keeping her alive. Sim's damage, when she gets charged up, actually is pretty bonkers. and how fast it gets charged and under what situation it gets charged. It's actually really strong. So the whole problem was like, all right, can you keep the sim alive while everyone's firing at her and yada yada yada? And usually the answer was no, or it wasn't worth it. It's like I'd rather put that effort into my tank, and my tank can do more damage than sim. So, under the right conditions. But now you could pocket a sim, and she can live through a lot of the bursts that she wasn't being able to live through before. So this is a pretty good buff. Do I think it's going to make her even with anyone else? No, I don't. Is this a step in the right direction? Yes, and it's actually a decent step in the right direction. And then there's the whole point of this entire change. It's funny. I really think all these hit points being changed and everything being changed in Overwatch, the drive of all of this is that they don't want to nerf Widow's one shot, so they nerfed her health. This is where I'm like, this change doesn't do much overall. It makes her weaker against the things that I guess she should be weak against, right? Tracer, Genji, these types of flankers. 175 doesn't change many breakpoints. I don't even want to call it significant one. And people are like, but Mei with a damage boost of 50% will now one-shot her. And I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like, who cares? Like, that's such an off case that it doesn't really matter. But Echo's sticky bombs, if she does get hit with all of those, she now does die. So there's like a couple situations where she will be weaker, and other than that, not very noteworthy. And again, my issue with Widowmaker is that all Widowmaker needs is a support to pocket her, which is, you don't even have to think. You can just literally have a bot. They, in fact, make support bots, which will follow you around and do all that stuff. You can buy them. If she has someone healing her, then a lot of dives can't kill her that easily, and she can almost always get away. So, and that's against like 4 or 5 people working perfectly together, which is 10 times harder than one person like Widow playing perfectly on the hero. So the entire matchup favors the Widow, and if you can't dive her, then the only other thing you can do is play another Widow and be better than her. That's it. That's your two options. And lowering her health doesn't open up any more strategies or tactics to get to her. And while this is they notice something's up with Widow and they need to fix her, I don't believe this is the right answer. People are like, but this is the most elegant answer, and if you go to 150, then she get one shot by Mei, and I'm like, good. If a sniper loses to Mei in a snipe off, then that's the Widowmaker's fault. She had the advantage, she lost to a Mei. She lost to someone who she had the advantage over, and so be it. But I don't think they're going to reduce her health to 150. I think that's too extreme. She needs some type of nerf to her uptime. I think she just puts out too much damage too quickly and for way too long of a period of time. So either they need to bump her charge up to like 2 seconds for a full charge. Maybe not 2 seconds, but like 1.5. Reduce her headshot multiplier to 1.5 or 2. Or like make her grapple not usable after she's been attacking damage. Like she needs something taken away so that strategies can be used against her. Like completely different strategies that no one can use currently. There just needs to be more options against snipers. That's all there is to it. And until that happens at the higher levels, essentially snipers are going to dominate. And when the sniper dominates, what really upsets me is that it makes 90% of the maps useless in Overwatch. It means open space you can't use. And if you ever look at battle royales and why they always have projectile sniper rifles, it's because they're big, wide open areas. And the only way to allow a game to use the big, wide open areas in a creative sense is to have non-hit scan weapons in the game. So, yeah, they need to do something to Widowmaker. Like, make it if she gets hit, she can't zoom in anymore, right? After she takes damage, she can't right-click for 10 seconds or something. Like, really, she needs something massive to actually stop her at the top levels. Because right now, Havana Point 3, it's just a Widow 1v1 with 10 spectators. The same could be said for Vanna Point 1 or Junkertown Point 1. There's a lot of times when you have a very good Widow, there's nothing you can do. Except change your entire team lineup. And all they have to do to deal with that is pocket the Widow with a support that you can do it with Mercy and you just hold mouse 1, guys, and you've done it. So it's everything here is again in the right direction. I really wish they would do this every week, if not every 2 weeks. Well, I should say every 2 weeks, if not every week, is the proper term. Yeah, I think all of this is in the correct direction. Yeah, I think this is all good. I'm pretty happy about this patch. I'm glad they at least see Widowmaker as an issue, and they're going to do something about it. But that's kind of it. So I'll upload that on YouTube, and we'll go with the game.